Very good. We're next with Senator Cardin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me thank all of our witnesses. It's very helpful to have a former USTR on our committee. So, and I really do want to acknowledge Senator Portman's has always reached out to try to find bipartisan ways to advance all agendas, including in trade. So we appreciate your willingness to try to find common areas so we can advance trade in this country. Thank you. I want to start with an observation and then ask Mr. Wetzel what we can expect in regards to this framework to advance good governance. In the last Trade Promotional Authority, we put as one of the principal objectives good governance, anti-corruption. And the USTR took that seriously in the initial negotiations on the TPP because as that was evolving, there was a strong chapter on anti-corruption and governance. Now, we're not a party to the TPP, but some of the countries that are part of this framework discussions. So, Mr. Wetzel, I would like to get from you, recognizing this is a framework, it's not dealing with market access, what can we reasonably expect to be able to achieve to advance our good governance, anti-corruption agenda that Congress has clearly shown a direct interest in any trade discussions? What can we expect in this framework?
I'm optimistic about what we can achieve. If you look at some of the other components of the overall Indo-Pacific strategy, which includes infrastructure, decarbonization, and many other components, good governance, anti-corruption is a real opportunity for making some advances. We've all seen the China model as it relates to Belt and Road, debt faults and their approaches there, et cetera. The public in many of these countries is desperate for anti-corruption measures. And with many of the provisions, the carrots that are in what President Biden is seeking to achieve, anti-corruption provisions should be part of that.
So without having a formal access agreement, how do you enforce any of those understandings in the framework? Could you just enlighten me how we could advance these issues but have some degree of confidence that it's not just language, not just verbal commitments, but actually we have made progress in being able to achieve these objectives?
And when one looks at what the administration is talking about in terms of infrastructure, alternatives to the AIIB, and other engagement in the region, I think there are real incentives to have enforceable standards around good governance, anti-corruption. There will be other provisions, of course, where there are carrots, some sticks, maybe sharp carrots, as I like to say. And I think there are ways of ensuring that there are enforcement measures because there will be preferential approaches within the overall Indo-Pacific strategy.
Thank you. Shaw, I want to get to a separate subject. The USMCA included a separate chapter on small business, which was very much appreciated by the small business community. I chaired a small business committee, and I've been pushing for similar sensitivities as we go into all trade discussions. So in regards to this framework, could you just give us a strategy as to how we can be sensitive to the needs of smaller companies?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, small and medium-sized enterprises face unique challenges, and it's important that we take steps to increase their opportunities in the Indo-Pacific region as well as safeguard their interests in the project. You know, one way that we can address some of these issues is through trade facilitation, easing some of the custom burden, cutting red tape, making it easier for our businesses that need critical inputs to be able to get them and to be able to get them quickly. But I think that just generally improving the terms of trade and again being as bold as possible and expanding the type of economic opportunities in the Indo-Pacific is going to go a long way to unleashing growth and opening up jobs and opportunities for some of our small and medium-sized companies.
There's no question innovation is so much focused on the smaller companies. And there can be intimidation issues. So I think some of the areas that you're talking about are very, very important. We also saw that size of transactions may also be a factor that we can make special rules that will assist those smaller and middle-sized companies in not having to deal with some of the challenges that are created under trade agreements. So I thank you for that. I hope that we'll all stay engaged as this moves forward. It's an area that we're a little bit confused about because we don't know exactly what rules are going to be applied in regards to congressional engagement or private sector engagement. But I think it's important that we all stay involved because we know that we have to increase our presence in the Indo-Pacific area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cardin. We're now at Senator Cassidy.
Hey, thank you. I'll address my first question to Ms. Shaw and Mr. Wessel.